Well, you start off with one like that, and here's one I made earlier. We actually wasn't expecting quite such a good turnout. We've got 27 of these bottles, so the one or two folk will have to perhaps you could share if you're if you're partners, if you could share. Otherwise, you won't all have enough to take one home. But I've started off by downloading the leaflet from the National Bee Unit. There's also a video online with a chap sat in a bee suit for some reason, making it up. Now I've tried to follow this, and yeah, it makes sense, but there are one or two bits there which I think we can do slightly differently, and I'll explain those when I get to them. They're very. They tell me all the things that I needed: a 2-litre plastic bottle, and bits of coated garden wire, various thicknesses. Now this bit of wire, that's my modification, which I'll explain. They talk about sharp knife, scissors. Yes, you should have brought all of those. A fine point soldering iron. How many of you have got a fine point soldering iron? No. Well, there we go. So what I've got is I've given you each table a candle and a nail. This works perfectly well as long as you remember to hold the nail with a pair of pliers. So when we come to melting a hole through, you just heat it up. Well, light the candle first, but you heat it up in the candle, and you can poke it. Matches? I've got a lighter. Might not have any fuel in it. So once we get one going, so you've each got a candle on your table and a bit of wood to hopefully protect the table. So that's my low-tech knowledge for a soldering iron. You can drill holes in this plastic, but it's awfully difficult to hold it steady because the plastic's so flexible. And this worked. I tried it myself. And if you want a small hole, you only poke it so far. If you want a bigger one, you poke it further. It's not critical. And it also mentions a pot riveter and rivets. Well, I haven't done that because, again, how many of you have got a pot riveter? Oh. Some of you have. So by all means, use a pot riveter. In fact, that's the final bit, and I actually haven't made the final bit on here because I ran out of time to do it, and it's supposed to go like that, and that's where you use your pot riveter. But you can use a small nut and bolt, something like that, or just a bit of wire poked through them and bent around.
Surely duct tape would do very nicely.
Duct tape probably not, because it will come undone in the wet. And the other thing they say you need is some black plastic, and corrugated plastic, and Wickes surface protection sheet is ideal. So off I went to Wickes. I thought, oh yeah, I'll get a couple of sheets of that, stuff it in the car. What I got there? They're like this, only bigger because I've cut off 4 strips already. So if you want to take some of this home with you, by all means take more off, because I don't need all this. But it's only £3.50 for a sheet. It's the sort of thing you put down on the floor if you're working in a building to protect the carpet or whatever. It's a fairly new idea, I think. Anyway, it does the job that we wanted to do. So I think the best thing is to get you started. I'll show you how I would start with this. The first thing we've got to do is to cut the bottle. And it very helpfully says, make an incision with a sharp knife and neatly cut around both just above and below the lower ridge of the bottle. Well, there aren't any lower ridges. And this one, Steve has very kindly brought 27 of these. Got his mates to help him drink it all. And these don't have suitable lines, so that their instructions fall down right at the start. So you need to make an incision. You need to cut off. Can you see my one here? You need to cut off about that much at the bottom, and the bait goes in there. And we sit a piece of mesh on the top to stop them falling into the bait. This is a monitoring trap, it's not a killing trap. Although if you get one, you'll probably want to kill it. It will probably catch wasps as well. I can't imagine that it won't. Depends what you bait it with. So the first thing is to cut off the bottom of the bottle, around, what's that, 2 or 3 inches up from the bottom. Anybody want it in metric?
Yes.
About 2.5 inches. About 65 centimetres. Now, what I did was
Millimetres.
I carefully, sorry, put it in another format as well.
No, you said centimetres.
Centimetres. Oh, it's, sorry,
Millimetres.
65 millimetres, yeah. This is why I don't use metric, because I... and to cut it, you need to cut it reasonably neatly, otherwise the whole thing doesn't work quite so well. And I thought, well, if I mark it round with a pen very carefully, I'll get the line right, and then I'll cut it. Then I had a bright idea, and I don't know if it will work, is to put an elastic band round. Unfortunately, I've only brought 2 elastic bands. But if you want, you can use that, or you could go around with a marker pen, just to get a straight line round. And to be honest, the easiest way to cut that is just with a craft knife or a Stanley knife. And if you're careful, I'll just do this quickly.
Be careful you don't mind using 3 fingers.
If you hold the knife still and twist the bottle, this is where I cut the elastic band, of course.
This is what I did earlier.
Yes.
This is where I need one I did earlier, isn't it? I'm really putting myself on the line here.
Yeah.
These bits of wood on the table you can use as cutting boards. Don't mind if they get damaged.
What side of the
I suppose once you get it going, you could go around with a pair of scissors, but I think that the craft knife is the best method.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing to do, I won't carry on with that one at the moment, is to get you all going, and then if you cut round there and then do the same at the top, and at least you'll start doing things. And then when we're all roughly there, we can go on to the next stage. And that needs to be about the same distance again. We don't need the top, of course, that we dispense with that. That's, again, it's about 1 inch, 2.5 inches, 3 inches from the top. So if you'd like to all come and grab a bottle.
Once you've got the first one right,
both in the army together?
Oh no. We've never said it at night.
crossing the vein.
Sheets of mesh. You can take some of those. I'll be sending the bill to the treasurer or something.
If you do want it,
Sorry?
if you do want it,
Yeah.
where do you get it?
It's it's a company called The Mesh Company. Literally, themeshcompany.co.uk. They've got it on there. They're not too expensive. And they do all sorts of meshes. And this is the one under the beekeeping section. They do all sorts of sizes. Now the instructions say you need welded mesh, which this is supposed to be. So what you need, the easiest way to do it is to cut a square of your mesh. And although this is a square mesh, it's not actually square, it's a bit lopsided. But you cut it to the width of the same diameter as your pattern. So there's my pattern on my mesh. It's easiest to cut the square first, rather than trying to cut it out of a sheet, going around the edges. Now their instructions, this is where I differ from them. What they say, and I'll come round and show you each, is that you make a little cut. You make 2 cuts you need to do it on all 4 corners. You make 2 cuts on every corner and bend them up.
Yeah.
You see? The mesh will then hook. Yeah, you need to cut these extra corners off as well. But what happens then is the mesh falls apart. So rather than put you through the trauma of that, what I suggest you do is, having got your circle cut and you then cut your square of mesh, you just cut round all the way around. Try to keep the bits of mesh somewhere where we can dispose of them easily, and cut the circle into the mesh, and don't bother with those bending up the corners bits. With this mesh it doesn't work, so I've had to do a little modification to make this work. So this is going to be the fiddly bit, because somebody, if each table, if you start sort of cutting squares of mesh, you end up with a sort of circle of mesh. Should be the same size as your pattern.
Away from the master plan.
And then the idea is that sits inside. It might need a bit of modification. I've cut mine too big.
Can we have a bit of mesh and
Yep.
cutting squares?
What I suggest you do is, if somebody could start cutting squares of mesh. We're nearly there.
Modifying it. He's still doing. He's doing
This is where it gets embarrassing on my part.
Hello. More instructions.
Sorry.
Can you listen, please?
Yeah, all right.
This is where it gets slightly embarrassing on my part, because I don't think I've got enough wire for you all to finish it off. So I've decided you've got some homework to do. I'm sure you all got a bit of wire at home, suitable. I've got some here, so we'll use this up, maybe cut a couple per table, so that you can see how it goes. What you need is a length of this, a foot long, 30 centimetres. 300 millimetres. So perhaps just cut 1 per table to start with.
What's it for?
Sorry?
Just to go straight through?
And it has to go straight through both layers of the plastic that you've stapled.
You're the only person doing it.
Well, will that one not suffice?
Sure, not burn myself. Couldn't you see?
If you write the mark on that table, that's
I think you must have a special candle on there.
you have to take it.
An easy one is just a coat hanger and shove it through, and then you put
There you go, coat hanger. I mean, all I've been telling you is take it home, and if you can do it a better way, do it a better way, because this is not necessarily the answer. It's not
No, I think
necessarily-
I did suggest that you do it the other way around, so you've got something to hang it up with.
Put it in like that.
Oh,
What they suggest is you
That's a
then
bit
bend
good.
this over onto the top, and that gives you somewhere you can put a little bit of wire through as a loop. Or you could make this longer and do the same. And then what they say is you bring this down here, which is why I suggest you make it at least a centimetre bigger on each side, to come around the side, and they say put pop rivets through. Well,
tape, duct tape.
It's very
put metal in and just pop it down
you
again.
could put another piece of wire through.
Duct tape.
Yeah. The theory is that this keeps the rain out. It gives a sort of dark entrance for them, and they go in and they drop down through, and you've got your hornet. Now, what you're going to bait it with will vary on the season. In the early parts of the season, they're looking for sweet stuff,
Yeah,
just for energy. So
jam,
all sorts of jam, beer, honey.
not with honey or get to the job.
No, I wouldn't waste honey on it. Let me read you what they say. It's quite entertaining. What bait should I use? At the end of the hibernation, emergent queens have a raised energy requirement and show a preference for sweet foods. In early spring, such food resources are comparatively rare in the environment, so this means that sweet baits are highly attractive for the early capture of Asian Hornet queens. There are many variations of sugar baits, all of which appear to be reasonably effective. These include mixes of sugar, various types of dark beer, what a waste, various types of alcohol, and even simple sugary baits such as apple juice. French beekeepers have also used a mixture of dark beer mixed with 25 millilitres of strawberry dessert sauce and 25 mils of orange liqueur.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
I think if you can make something up and you find it's working, heaven forbid we're actually catching it. So if you have thought one, tell Kerry what bait you've used, and we'll take it from there. At the height of the beekeeping season, when predatory worker hornets are seeking high protein foods to feed the larvae, and this is the other way round for wasps, they look for high protein food through the summer, and then when the last larvae have stopped exuding honeydew, they then look for sweet things. So they're looking for protein, and you produce a protein bait by adding raw meat to fish to water. In the field we have found that a protein bait of mashed fish, e.g. prawns or trout, diluted to 25%.
Is that Tesco's or Asda?
I suggest you get the cheapest.
Always one, isn't there?
However, if you use a protein bait, it will need changing after 3 days due to decay and an unpleasant aroma.
Oh, they like that. That's what they go for.
Additionally, you can buy proprietary brands of Hornet trap bait from many garden centres, DIY stores and beekeeping suppliers, some of which have a tested and proven efficacy against the Asian Hornet. Now the thing about these is once you've got it up in your apiary, depends how big your apiary is, but if you've got just 2 or 3 hives, then probably one of these would be enough. It needs to be hung at this sort of height where you can see it, and they suggest you monitor it daily. So if you've got an out apiary, you know, it's a bit tricky. Unless you can go there every day.
And how close to your hives do you put it?
Well, that's a good question. They don't say.
So
Because somebody over here said, won't it attract the hornets to your hives? But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one.
I would say you don't. I think it's a hornet too.
I would say you have 2 ways of hanging it. In the spring, you'd put it up high to try and find a queen, but in the summer, once they got, if you did have a lot of rain, you'd put them in the hawking area near the front of the hive.
Yeah, yeah.
I would have thought so.
So the lid bit, if you all want to cut yourself a piece of this, at least 170 millimetres long, and if we run out of these strips, which I've cut off of this big one,
You can have that one.
I think there should be enough here for 24, but I might be wrong. We can always cut some more off that.
This is for light rain.
Okay.